Yesterday, Activision Blizzard released yet another round of statistics about World of Warcraft, and for the first time in WoW's history, there has been something interesting that happened here, and I double-checked and I looked. This is the first time after a major expansion announcement that WoW hasn't seen an increase or even a stabilization of subscriber numbers. They've actually dropped by another 100,000. But this isn't some video about how, World of Warcraft is dying because of subscriber numbers. Yeah, in the title it says the end of the World of Warcraft, but this is something totally different because that number got me thinking about a couple of things, and I did a little bit of research. I started to do some reading, and I started to concoct a bit of a theory that Legion is at least the herald of the end of Warcraft as we know it. Not necessarily entirely the end of the game, but maybe the end of the structure and the story and the narrative and how things roll with Warcraft that we've gotten so used to over about 10 years. Now, I might be entirely wrong, and Blizzard might turn around in the next expansion and completely change everything and rewrite the whole deal and make all of my points completely moot. That's the wonders of Blizzard. They can do that. Metzen is one hell of a dude. But I have these three thoughts that when they came together kind of linked towards this idea that Warcraft might be coming to an end. Not this expansion, and maybe not next expansion, but I think they're starting to gear into this focus that, yeah, it's almost over. They're starting to put their toys back in the box one by one and tying up all of the loose ends. There's kind of three prongs to this little theory that I want to talk about. There's a lore reason, a mechanical reason, and a market and kind of universe reason that they're kind of sitting in. And this, again, might all be entirely wrong and is rampant speculation, and don't mind me, but I think it's at least interesting to talk about. And if you guys have something to say, I'd love to talk to you guys in the comments about it, because I love discussing this stuff. But here we go, my three kind of ideas that are pointing towards Legion being the herald of the end of the World of Warcraft. Number one is the lore reason. So, in-game lore, in the game story, Legion is about the Burning Legion coming back to Azeroth to finally exact that ass-kicking revenge for the whopping they got back up during the War of the Ancients. If you're a big fan of Warcraft lore, you'll kind of know that. You'll kind of see that coming. The big question is, who's the big bad who comes after the Legion? Like, last time we fought the Legion, we had the Legion on Draenor, and they were doing their thing, and we didn't really fight them in earnest. We were just kind of in the same place at the same time, and the big bad in that expansion wound up being Illidan, and we did beat the crap out of Kil'jaeden, but he crawled back through his little portal thingy, back to his little weird dimension. But who do you follow the Legion with? Like, the Burning Legion is arguably the most powerful force in the known World of Warcraft universe. I mean, you had Arthas last time, because Arthas beats Illidan, and then, yeah, it's weird. That's how, I guess, rock, paper, scissors goes in Warcraft, but the idea that you'd have somebody bigger than the Legion is bizarre. I mean, the only thing I could even come close to thinking of is the Old Gods, and we've been kicking their asses for, like, 5 expansions now. Like, we beat Cthulhu and, Vanilla, we took down Yogg Saron and Wrath, we completely fucked over all of their plans in Cataclysm and killed Deathwing, which was a big deal. So who follows the Legion? Who's next? Who's the bigger bad than Kil'jaeden and Sargeras? I mean, you could argue Sargeras might be maybe the next expansion boss, but then you're straight out because Sargeras is, like, arguably the most powerful entity in the universe. So how do you follow up Sargeras, then? So the Legion stuff that we're getting into kind of speaks to what could potentially be an end of Warcraft, because, or at least this thread of the narrative of Warcraft, because you can't really follow up the Legion with anything that isn't, like, more Legion, because they're kind of the be-all, end-all of the Warcraft universe. They're the big villain. The second big thing that kind of narratively flows is in something that really speaks to it, and that's the artifact weapons. So artifact weapons are kind of a big deal. Stuff like Ashbringer and Doomhammer are being given to players, as opposed to their usual lore counterpart holders like Tyrion and Thrally Pants. That's weird, because you'd think a lot of these characters probably wouldn't give up that item, especially Thrall with Doomhammer, because he's got immense sentimental value to him, which leads to a theory I've talked about before, that a lot of lore characters are going to die, disappear, or give up the fight in this expansion. And I think that with discussions of the Broken Shore being the most shocking event in Warcraft, that has some merit. I mean, I could totally see this huge army of heroes and warriors, and the greatest names in Azeroth charging forward and getting fucking annihilated by the Legion, and then we have to come in and kind of pick up the pieces and be that. They are shifting this sort of legendary status to the players and kind of eliminating a lot of these big lore characters. Why does that spell an end? Well, I mean, a lot of these guys are pretty tied up into the narrative of the world, and if you kind of take them out, then it changes a lot of shit. But that's just my lore reasons. A lot of the storyline here kind of points towards an end. I mean, Anduin Wrynn, if you want to talk about the prophecy that Valen came out with, hey, Anduin Wrynn's going to lead the Army of Light against the Legion. Anduin Wrynn's getting to the point where he could probably lead the Army of Light against the Legion. So we could be close, maybe an expansion or two away from this big ending. The second point I want to make in terms of the potential telegraphing of the end of the World of Warcraft is in artifact weapons. I mean, take a look at Ashbringer and Doomhammer. These are like iconic weapons. These are like a big deal. People have been trying to get their hands on Ashbringer since vanilla. People have been loving Doomhammer for like a decade. It's crazy, and now we're finally getting these weapons. It's like this sort of iconic ultimate point where our character strength reaches its apex. We are allowed to wield the greatest weapon, the most powerful weapon that we've seen. And we've seen its power, and we've been part of its power, and they've been part of the lore for so long. This speaks to an apex in our character strength, that your character has reached the strongest point, but that also speaks to an end of progression, or at least a theoretical end of progression. It means that your character is approaching their greatest point, their highest strength. These artifact weapons, the fact that you're now wielding Doomhammer, and I guarantee when the next expansion comes around, you're not going to drop Doomhammer, pick up your first fucking quest green. They're going to want to keep these iconic weapons going. That means that you're kind of reaching your zenith, and it speaks to an end of progression, a foreshadowing of an end of progression, because you've got the best weapon now. You've got the ultimate weapon for your class and your spec. You've got the greatest weapon to fight the greatest foe, and it's growing along with you, but you have reached that zenith point. Your character is incredibly powerful, more powerful than any of the lore characters we've interacted with. You have reached the apex of strength, and that speaks to an end, because you reach your apex of strength just before the final showdown. And finally, to put it bluntly, Warcraft is losing subscribers and has been for the better part of 4 years now. They've been losing subscribers at a substantial rate. This is the first expansion announcement they've made where they haven't immediately seen at least a stabilization or an upsurge of subscribers. It's interesting to see and kind of interesting to watch as things kind of slide. Now, what does that mean? It means eventually they're going to have to start considering a new model for Warcraft, or putting Warcraft to bed and moving to something else. Another interesting fact is that the Warcraft team is at the largest it has ever been, which is strange because it's a game that's effectively losing its income slowly, but it's losing it over time. Mind you, they're still probably raking in millions and millions of dollars every month, but it's decreasing over time. And to the point where Activision is no longer comfortable releasing subscriber numbers, which is really the end of an era because we're so used to hearing about how well Warcraft is doing. Now it's kind of disappearing. I guess that's probably pretty telling of a trend that has developed in the Warcraft subscriber numbers. Maybe this also is telling of a trend in the change in how World of Warcraft is going to go about its own income. Because, to be honest, we're in the era of free-to-play now. Almost every other MMORPG on the market is at some level a free-to-play game. World of Warcraft's got that, but it's really more of a free trial, and it's not really a good one at that. Why not maybe start considering a new business model? And with a new business model, that might come with a whole relaunch of the game, which might be what these expansions are telegraphing. What we're looking at might be the beginning of the end of our current phase of Warcraft, and maybe the beginning of a new one. Maybe we'll see Warcraft go free to... Sorry, I just made myself laugh. That's not going to happen. At least not in the near future anytime soon. Warcraft is still going strong, but it's going weaker every year. And I really hope to see something new and interesting come out of it. And maybe that's what they're leading up to. These great big huge expansions and this huge amount of money going into it, maybe they're shifting into something new. And they're doing that by bringing an end to the old, with Legion, and with all of this telegraphing of this ominous end. That would be what I would like to see, because deep down inside, I love Warcraft. I still do, even though I don't play it. Even though I don't really enjoy the game anymore, I've got fond memories, and I would hate to see those memories disappear. Or at least the root of those memories disappear. So let's hope that something new is on the horizon as something old starts to fade out. And that Legion, while possibly the harbinger of the end of Warcraft as we know it, is only the end of Warcraft as we know it. And something new and interesting is on the horizon. But until then, we'll have to find out. This has been rampant speculation, and I'm pretty sure most of it will be wrong in 8 months, but I don't care. It's still something interesting to discuss, and something interesting to look at, and something interesting I notice. But thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this little weird speculation bit. If you did, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Or toss a comment down in the comments. I'd love to hear your guys' ideas on these. I'm just talking about what I see. I might be seeing ghosts where there are none. I might be crazy. Who knows? But thanks very much for watching, and you all have a great one.